It's Corso and Catone. Brought to you by Corso Law Group, Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Now for the real deal New England feel. Corso and Catone.
Welcome into Corso and Catone, the real deal New England feel. I'm Corso. Catone is here. Joe was just on the screen and then he got himself off.
He quickly got himself off.
If anybody's watching, making sure we get some feedback.
He's trying to play Phantom of the Opera. This is what he wants to be not seen, but heard. But he is with us in the booth, of course. And you're watching us on YouTube, listening on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast. Anywhere you podcast, you're going to catch us. And, of course, 790 Discord. And listen, when you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. Give us that thumbs up. Joe's showing it now. Subscribe now. Get all our notifications so you never, ever, ever miss an episode. Got a good one in Heated Hotline. We're going to hear from one of you, obviously. Mark and I have listen, let's not forget, Mark and I have no idea what the hell the Heated Hotline is. He kind of throws that at us. He likes to do that to us, Joe.
Yeah, he likes to play with us.
So, and also we're going to go into Pat's preview, talk about the Bengals game and some other things as well. And, of course, Catone's comments. You never want to miss that. And it's still baseball season, so we're going to talk Yankees versus Red Sox. And make sure you comment on all of it. Give us a call in Heated Hotline, 855-313-PATS, P-A-T-S. Message line, 24/7, Mark. You look like you have something to say. So,
can you believe it's week one? It's week one.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited,
At about 4:15 on Sunday, we'll be 0-1, but that's okay. Hey, what are you going to do?
Don't give away your picks yet. And on Pat's Nation, hey, listen, on Pat's Nation tomorrow, make sure you're tuning in because we're going to have our picks. We're going to have our Sunday spread, right? So we want to make sure we have that situation going. And let us know what you think in our mailbag, corso.catone@gmail.com. Well, we know how he's doing. How you doing, Joe?
Hey, we're rocking and rolling,
All right.
Week one with whole new, brand new Patriots team. Brandy new.
Chris, this is the first time we're going to see this team with no Belichick and no Brady. And now Brady has been gone, but combination of two of them, how many years? 20, 21? How many years, Ben?
Yeah. I mean,
long time.
Well, I mean, Belichick was in New England for 24, and then
okay, so there we go, 24 years without him or Brady. All right, we're ready.
Go Texans.
Ready to watch Joe Burrow.
Yeah,
there we go.
Well, listen, we want to know how you feel about everything, and we're going to do that in Heated Hotline. We're going to do it now.
Hi, guys. This is Jen from Cranston. So what is this buffoon Mayo talking about in his press conferences? My God, will they please stop letting this man talk? He talks out of two sides of his mouth, giggles, forgets who the captains are. This is brutal. And it all goes back to Kraft. Cheap, cheap, cheap.
Listen, you can always count on Jen from Cranston. Whenever she calls in, Chris, she's always right. And she just gets fired up.
When she said he talks out of two sides of his, I thought she was going to name another orifice.
I did too. Because she usually does throw in a little vulgarity. Usually.
We love Jen. We love Jen. So thank you, Jen, as always. And like buffoons, he certainly isn't disappointing. That being Gerard Mayo. So Mark, listen. Aside from the fact that he forgets who the captain is and then giggles his way. I mean, God, he's giggling like he's running for president. But
did he really forget, Chris? Or is that part of his stick in his act?
No, I think he forgot.
I was going to ask you guys that.
You think he forgot? All right.
Joe, I think he's over his head. I think he's so far over his head. Because it looked like he was reading from a list.
Okay.
Unless it was a late ad and he
missed it. Maybe.
He missed it. But then he starts. But then you know what? It's one thing. You say, "Oh yeah, you know what? I missed that. It's over here. I skipped over that." Yeah, of course, Jacoby Brissett, and then move on. No. Him, it's oh yeah, I forgot him. Oh, thank you for reminding me. Thank you for reminding me. Oh, that could have been a fire. He looks like he's a buffoon, Jen. Buffoon. I mean that's you talk about a 180.
So Chris, let's talk about that though. So Jacoby Brissett is a captain.
Yeah.
Like that was almost like planted strategic. Like, okay, he's a captain. He's playing because, his importance to the team, like because they got made not playing to start the season. Miraculously, Jacoby Brissett he's a locker room guy. He's a captain. I mean, do you think it's a coincidence or is that intentional?
I mean, they say it voted on by the players this year.
Okay, maybe.
Listen, he's going opposite.
Do you believe that?
Belichick
Do you
on
believe that?
everything.
But do you believe that? So the players voted him in as a captain. All right.
I don't know.
Maybe I'm just too cynical. I don't know.
Maybe because it's the quarterback,
Yeah,
so he's the captain.
right.
And they're going to wear the C. Belichick didn't allow that.
Yeah, Belichick never allowed the C.
So because he didn't allow it, therefore Mayo's
of course, Mayo's going to allow it. Yeah.
So obviously we know he has no command of the room. We know Mayo doesn't have command of a press conference. He's giggling, he's talking. It's collaborative. I decided that it's going to be Brissett. I don't know what the hell he's saying anymore. But Mark, given Jen brings up this point, and I wanted to ask you, and I wasn't sure at what point we'd get to it. But let's do it now. I mean, he's asked the question about Drake May, okay, about his development. Now, you brought this up to me. I'm not remember if it was on Corso Catone or just us talking. It all seems to meld into one thing, one show, either privately or publicly. But you mentioned, well, how the hell is this guy going to progress? How's he going to get on the field in week 6? It's not like just your general backup like Brian Hoyer, where, run the scout team. So he was asked that question, and we got the audio, and he's asked the question about that, what's he going to do? How are you going to get this guy ready? And then he said this.
We'll see how it goes, but once again, I don't want Jacoby to feel like someone's nipping at his heels, and he'll get the majority of the reps while at the same time continuing to develop Drake in other ways. Now, a lot of you guys, I guess the next question will be, how do you do that? He will still participate, in some of the, the team drills for the upcoming team, but I also think, the show team reps are very important. They've always been important. And even when I was a rookie, I also was a top 10 pick. But even as a rookie, I was on those show teams. And I think that's another place where you can develop as well as the other tools that we've talked about here over the summer.
Like it's, what I mean? That's what I feel like. I hear like Ringling Brothers song in my head when I hear him talk. So what do you say to that?
I was also a top 10 pick. Okay. All right. Right. Really? Okay, Gerard. Listen, Chris, but all right. So you want him on the scout team mimicking a quarterback, different quarterback with different techniques and different styles every week? You think that's going to help the develop? He's not playing linebacker like Mayo, where you're reading and he's not playing linebacker. He's a quarterback, Gerard. Maybe you forgot that. He's the quarterback. Do you really want your quarterback, Chris, if you were running this team and this offense, to do that every week on the scout team?
Look, it's two different things, okay?
There's no value to it, but
listen, like I said, it's not your typical situation of backup quarterback. It's not. Okay, so it's not like I say, Brian Hoyer or any of these backups for any team. It's different. Yep. You're not developing those backups to possibly insert them some other point in
they're
the year.
They're not your supposed franchise moving forward, right?
No, so it's a completely different animal. All right. Yeah, obviously it's not the same as, like you said, Mark, his analogy to himself is completely, it's not analogous. Okay, put it that way. All right. So you're talking about the quarterback. Fine. Yeah, run the scout team. Damon Heward did it for the Patriots beautifully when he had to imitate Peyton Manning and all the things he does and his gestures and mimics and all that stuff. That's why Mark is saying this, saying that if you're trying to mimic another offense and another quarterback, or are you allowing him to be Drake May and just work on Drake May, but just run their stuff? Which way are you doing it? So
he didn't elaborate on that.
One of the two is going to give somebody a disservice. So you're either going to have him mimic the other team and be that person, watch film on that quarterback, And then, because that's what the scout team does, they watch film just like the regular team watches film.
Yep.
But they watch it for purposes of mimicking. So now I'm going to mimic the other quarterback. Okay, no. We don't want you to do that. We want you to still be Drake May. We want you to work on all the stuff you work on for us and what you need to do for footwork and mechanics and everything. We just want you to run their plays. That's a little different. But then that does a disservice to the rest of the team, doesn't it?
Yeah. Listen, Joe Milton should be running the scout team.
Absolutely.
Because it'll get him reps. It'll let him mimic whatever he's going to mimic, and it'll get him reps. It'll get him throwing the ball, and that'll be good for Joe Milton, but not Drake. Listen, when Mahomes, Chris, sat for the year behind Alex Smith, and this was something that came out that, and the people around Kansas City said they knew that Mahomes was going to be that next guy, like a Brady, because at the end of every practice, Chris, he took receivers from the practice squad, some guys that really weren't getting a lot of playing time, backup linemen, and he ran the Chiefs' game plan offense after practice.
Yeah.
Every single week for about an hour or so with those guys, and he ran through the playbook, not the scout team's playbook,
right.
the Chiefs' playbook with
right.
those guys, so he could understand what Andy Reid expected of his starting quarterback every week.
Right.
He did that on his own.
Yes.
Andy Reid didn't tell him to do it. He took the initiative to do that himself. But in the case of Drake May, well, maybe they're going to do this, Chris. I don't want to say they're not. Maybe they're going to. But maybe that's something Alex Van Pelt needs to do with this kid.
I don't know if they're telling him to do that or not, but
I don't know.
He better have the what Mayo
but
and
Mahomes
I want to talk
took
about
the initiative to do that. So
I want to talk about the next thing, but what Mayo should be saying in the press conference is, look, it's on him. He's got to do it. He's got to find reps. He's got to find ways to do it. That's what he should be saying. Then
Chris, no, what he says is, well, we don't want Jacoby to think that, they're nipping at his heels.
They are nipping at his heels.
He's supposed to be nipping at his heels.
You better hope he is. And then he talks about, but then this is the two sides of his mouth, as Jen's
referencing.
Okay.
Yeah.
He says, okay, what happens if Jacoby gets hurt? Okay. Well, then will Drake May be ready to play at that point? And, we have audio on this. And once he's asked that question, he says this.
So, yeah, I do. And, you just heard Gerard talk there where he said it's really hard for rookie quarterbacks to come into the league and, execute at a high level. So with no veterans anywhere on the roster besides Brissett, just Joe Milton behind Drake May, nobody on the practice squad. So essentially what they're saying is, so Drake May, he can't do it week 1, but he could do it week 2 if need be. To me, it's wildly inconsistent. They've been talking about a plan. There should be a plan in terms of when he is ready. I mean, if it's not week 1, then when is it going to be?
Yeah, and that was Greg Bedard of the Boston Sports Journal commenting on what Mayo had said about that he's going to be ready to play week 2. Thank you, Joe. And yeah, I mean, I agree with Bedard here. Like, so is he ready or isn't he? Shouldn't there just be another veteran on the team then?
Well,
if Jacoby Myers goes down? Because, I mean, if you're not ready to play week 1, how the hell are you ready to play week 2? Or is it just, hey, you know what? Jacoby's hurt. He's not ready yet, but we're just going to do it. Let's go.
Listen, Chris, if it would not surprise me if Brissett went down, say, with a rolled ankle this week, and May had to come off the bench and finish the game out.
Yeah, and then they go 10-7.
It wouldn't surprise me. But no, it wouldn't surprise me if they picked up a veteran for next week.
Yeah, I would say so.
I don't know. I still don't know if they would throw. I understand what Gerard said, but like you said, he talks out of both. Like Jen said, he talks out of both sides. I wouldn't be surprised if they put a veteran in there anyways. They pick one up off the scrap heap and May wouldn't play anyways. I honestly do think they don't plan on playing him. Hopefully they think Brissett can stay healthy, and maybe Drake plays week 7 or 8. It gets like the last 7 or 8 games, Chris, of the season. When we're sitting at like 1-8, they throw him in there and say, okay, we need a spark or something just to see what he can do.
Yeah, I mean, look, the bottom line is it seems like a clown show. It doesn't seem
is.
like he
Well,
knows what he's doing, and we got to get the break. But to Jen's point, cheap. This is what happens when you go cheap on the coaching. This is it. There it is.
Chris,
and
you don't
seeing
have
it
any.
full
You don't
hand,
have anybody at any key coaching position that's ever done it before
Nope.
at that position. That's a problem when the real game starts.
Yeah, so it's a clown show. We'll see what happens. Jen, thank you for the call. Heated Hotline was presented by Corso Law Group, corsolawgroup.com. Hey, we come back. Going to go back in the week in actually, we're going to go Pat's preview when we return. All that and more. No flipping.
No one ever thinks they will be in need of a criminal or traffic lawyer, but things happen. CORSO Law Group is Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. Their 20-plus years experience and attention to detail has helped thousands of people who found themselves in a situation in Arizona. Whether it's a traffic ticket or more serious issue, talk with these expert attorneys. CORSOLawGroup.com.
Back in with more Corso and Catone, the real deal, New England feel. All right, Mark, they got a game to play. They got a game to play tomorrow, so we want to break a little bit of that down. And make sure you tune into the Pats Nation Sundays, 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern. It's going to be the first pregame show you hear. Mark and I, about the things we're talking about right now, we're going to go into a lot more detail on that. So we want to do that Pats preview. We're going to do it right now, Joe.
Pats preview.
Okay, Mark, Bengals on the road. Bengals, 1 p.m. Eastern, kickoff week 1. I am excited, but,
No, listen, whether or not we're good or not, Chris, listen, everybody's 0-0. Nobody's going to win. Nobody's going to lose. If you're going to be, at least you can be excited for opening week. And then after that, it's all downhill. But, hey,
Yeah. All right, so let's get into the offensive keys to victory for this one, okay? And like I said, tomorrow we're going to elaborate a lot more on this with a lot more detail. But generally speaking, let's talk about Brissett. We've talked about quarterbacks a little bit from the coaching. Can he manage this team to a win? I mean, what's he have to do? How's he, what is he?
First of all, Chris, I thought one of the reasons they brought him here was to protect the football.
Yeah.
Right. So listen, he's got to protect the football, Chris. And one of Belichick's old lines used to be we want every drive to end with a kick, either an extra point, a field goal, or a punt, not a turnover. And that used to be one of Belichick's old lines. Like, you know what I mean? That everything should end in a kick, right?
Yep.
And so I think, and that's protecting the football, obviously. And I think that's what they thought bringing him in here, Chris, that was going to be Brissett's strength. Yeah. Even though it didn't look that way in training camp necessarily, and in some of those couple of preseason games he was in, he was shaky, especially in that Eagles game. That interception in the end zone was awful. Chris, in order to win this game, you're going to have a +2 or a +3, I think, on the turnover side of the turnovers. Ball. So when I say protect the ball, we got to protect it. But defensively, Chris, if you don't end up with a +2, +3, I don't think you have any shot in this game.
Well, you got to win that. You 83%. It's an 83% win rate when you got a +2 in turnovers, and so right. And we'll get to the defense in the next segment. But you're right about the turnovers. So Brissett, stay in front of the sticks, set proper protections, make proper reads, throw the ball away when you need to.
Which Chris is all stuff he's supposed to. Isn't that why he's starting over May now? At this point
don't put the team in a bad situation. And Mark, it looks like Sidney So is probably going to be out in this game. Okay, so you're talking about
what do you expect for the line? Because now it's low practice this week, a little bit limited.
Yeah.
We won't know until game time if he's a scratch or not. What do you expect the offensive line to look like, the starters? What do you think it's going to be?
Okay, so I think Okorafor is going to play.
Sal's going to be out. We're guessing.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Okorafor on the right. At left tackle.
Oh, that could be dangerous. Though,
it's going to be Winu at right tackle. I think Robinson will play either one of those two. They're probably going to put him next to Winu because he's a rookie. And then Andrews, and then I'm not sure what they're doing at left guard at this point.
Left guard.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But if Lowe plays, then you see Lowe at left tackle. You see Okorafor at right tackle. You kick a Winu in, Robinson. I'm okay with that line. But
I'm okay with
for
that
them
line.
to have a key to this victory offensively is, to me, attack the run. Okay, you got to attack in the run game. You've got to be able to run the ball here. It's a hell of a lot easier for the offensive line to run block because you can shift to the defensive ends to help on Hendricks and guys like that.
Yep.
You can shift to those situations, chip, things like that. You can get the tight end in, 12 personnel, you 11 personnel, 21, whatever it is, where you get the tight end to block for you. And pass protection is tougher. It's a little more finesse. So you keep yourself out of situations where it's a 7-step drop and he's got to sit there and read the field. Yeah.
So, Chris, this West Coast offense, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Now, it's supposed to be outside zone, inside zone run.
Yeah.
And that, if it's successful, is supposed to set up big explosive pass plays.
Yep.
In theory.
Yeah.
And supposedly that's what they were trying to implement in the summer in training camp.
Yeah.
Whether or not they can do that, I don't know. But I think in theory, that's what Van Pelt is trying to establish. I don't know if you have the personnel to do it, but I think those are the things that he took from the West Coast offense.
Yeah, you got to run the ball. You got to affect. The thing with this offense, and you saw it a little in the preseason.
But Chris, the running game is different than Belichick's running game, right?
Much different. It's more zone. It's more of what you just described. And what you're trying to do is affect the middle linebackers. That's the biggest thing with it. You saw the play in the preseason where Drake May hit Polk on the over route.
Yep.
For a big gain across the middle, a crosser route, but it was an over and under route. They were the same. And you see two routes coming from the same side, an under crosser and an over crosser, and you're trying to manipulate the middle linebackers. And the way you manipulate the little middle linebackers in this type of offense is with play action, as you said, to get those linebackers to stay flat-footed or come forward a little. And one of those passes is going to open up. It's going to be the high over or the low over route. And that's the essence of this offense. But you got to run the ball to do it, as you said.
And Chris, it's going to be important because the Bengals are a real good third down defensive team. So if you don't hit some
get at the long yardage situation.
If you don't hit some of those big plays, Chris, they're going to bring some different pressures, crazy pressures. They do that. This defense will bring different types of pressures, which I don't know if our offensive line can handle at this point. So to your point, the run game, keeping yourself out of third and long distances, because you're going to have a problem, Chris, with this offensive line if you don't do that.
In particular, you're going to have a problem with Hendrickson. I mean, this is a guy who had 18 sacks last year, okay? And you can chip on him with a running back, but Mark, offensive linemen hate that. Unless you rep it, okay, where you're working on that chip, you could see you saw it in the preseason with Lowe, a lot of bad things can happen. And then you got Inaruno's blitz packages, the defensive coordinator there. My God, he's going to throw the kitchen sink at them.
Chris, I have a funny feeling you're going to be very frustrated. You're going to see
I'm already frustrated.
No. I'm going to tell you why, though, because you're going to see a lot of 12 personnel Sunday.
Well,
to protect against Hendrickson, you're going to see a lot of 12
listen, I do think that there's a path to win here. I do think offensively there's a path. If you can establish the run, if it has to be 12, then it has to be 12, Mark, because it's not like this defense for Cincy is stellar.
No,
I mean, they're not stellar.
No,
they got a couple of good players,
stellar.
but they could be had in the run game. I mean, they can.
Yeah.
So it's possible, everybody out there. It is possible. I don't think they're 8 points better at this moment. I don't.
Okay, well, and Jamar Chase returned to practice, by the way, because you and I were talking about, is Chase going to even play? He's practicing. So I think his intent is to play Sunday, even though he held out most of training camp.
Yeah. So offensively, that's to me and Mark what the keys are to victory. And we didn't mention the wide receivers, but they're going to have to play a role, obviously. And they're going to have to run crisp, sharp routes, middle routes, center routes. And by the way, for that key to that offense too is to have a burner on the outside that can drag that corner away and drag safeties to have to help over the top. And that's evidently going to be Thornton,
Chris, that's a scary thought. But maybe
he got better. Maybe he can better get off press, Mark.
Yeah. Okay. Year 3, he learned that. Yeah. He's a big physical specimen. He reminds me of N'Keal Harry.
You're going to see a lot of man coverage on that side of the field against him. You will see a lot
you know
of
what?
man
That's
coverage on
something our viewers should watch and see. Is Chris right? Are we going to see a lot of man coverage on that side of the field?
Well, let's hear from
see.
you in Heated Hotline, and tune in tomorrow to the Pats Nation. We'll hear a little more detail about the wide receivers, and but this portion of Pats Preview was presented by the Pats Nation, Sundays 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern. Hey, it's going to be the first pregame show of the day when the Patriots are playing at 1 p.m. or any point in Sunday, which is all their games, Mark. So you want to make sure you tune into that every Sunday. But we come back, going to stay with Pat's Preview, talk about the defense, no flipping.
Sundays are for football. And here in New England, that means it's the Pats Nation with Corso and Catone.
You have the worst wide receiver room in the National Football League.
This is why the Patriots need us in the draft room. Let's see what the Pats Nation thinks about that, Mark.
Starting June 30th, Sundays, 8 to 9 a.m. on 790 The Score.
Back in with more Corso and Catone, the real deal New England feel. All right, Mark, staying on this preview of the Cincinnati Bengal game, let's shift to the other side of the field. And I know you're wanting to talk about the Cincinnati offense and what they bring to the table. And looking at this situation, from a Cincinnati standpoint, Mark, okay, are they as potent as everybody's billing them to be?
Yeah, if they're healthy, yes. If they're healthy, yes, absolutely that. Yeah, and I'm going to tell you why. Because not only Chase has something to prove, Chris, as crazy as it sounds, because he wants Justin Jefferson money. So I think Chase is going to try to put up huge numbers this year, Chris, and he's going to be extra motivated. But he runs the risk. These guys that hold out training camp, Chris, miraculously on the first game back, they pull hamstrings. They're not really physically ready to go. So he's going to be careful Sunday. But I think, Chris, he's going to be dangerous because I think he wants to put up big numbers. T. Higgins, they franchised him. He wants to put up big numbers because he may still get a payday next year. The key, Chris, is Christian Gonzalez up for the task. Yeah. Because Christian Gonzalez is going to have either Chase or Higgins, and he's probably going to be on one of them. Can he hold up? That's going to be the question. Because you said he looked good in training camp at some points, but then he would give up late in routes, and guys would go up and over him and get so he's going to be tested Sunday, Chris. What do you think? Really
tested. I mean, if I'm developing a game plan for this week, I'm talking about bracketing Chase.
Okay.
With my other corner, my other boundary corner, which will probably be Jonathan Jones, and then a safety, Hasty or Peppers, somebody like that. And then I'm going to play a lot of man coverage with Higgins and Gonzalez. And that's just going to be his play. Now, if the game's, everything's subject to change. I mean, if the game starts rolling around now and you see Chase is just not Chase, well, you can switch, you can flip that. You can flip that situation. I do think you're going to see a lot of safe zone stuff with the Patriots until it's assessed what the hell's happening with the Cincy's. I mean, look, Burrow's Burrow. We know what he can do, but remember now he's coming off an injury too again. But I will say this is his first full preseason that he's had in what?
Yeah, I think Chris, I think he's motivated too. This whole team is motivated because they had a lot of bad.
Yeah, they're motivated to kick our ass. That's their motivation.
That may be too. Listen, I'm going to tell you a key on the offense for Cincinnati. You and I mentioned them in the draft. Trey Burton, the draft pick from Alabama, is going to have a huge day on Sunday. Huge day. He's going to catch at least one touchdown. I'm telling you right now, Chris, he's better than the guy they let go, Boyd. Burton's better, and he's only a rookie. He's better. So he trust me.
And that's going to be the nickel draw. That's going to be the Marcus Jones.
We're going to be talking next week, and you're going to say, Mark, you all right? Burton had a big game. Get a big game. I'll be surprised if he doesn't, Chris.
So we know what they can bring at us in the passing game. Okay. Yep. And again, I do think it'll be Jonathan Jones on the outside. I didn't want it to be.
Hey, Chris, they lost Joe Mixon. So their running game isn't as good as it once was.
Right. But then they picked up a corner this week. a former
was
number
that?
one pick, and I'm looking for that
Where'd
right
they get
now.
him from?
But they got him. I want to say it was Tennessee. Give me
Yeah, but I
one
thought they
second.
just brought him in, Chris, for a workout. Did they sign him?
Oh, I don't know if they signed him or not. I don't know if they signed him.
Yeah,
So
they
maybe
brought
they
him in
didn't
for a
sign him.
workout, Chris. I don't know if he was signed.
But he's a veteran guy. He's had a lot of injury issues. Back. He's got a back issue. He had some, but he was a number one. He was like the 23rd pick in the draft.
Yeah, he
okay.
was.
And so, if they may have to get a guy like that. Now that's a guy that, like, hey, if he's healthy, he's the first round corner. Put him on this team. But what do we have this week? Yeah, I mean, it's going to be Jonathan Jones on the outside, Marcus Jones inside. I mean, if the depth is not there, so you're going to be stuck with, say, an Austin, somebody like that. Dial still, I would assume, is going to be on the active roster rather than Bolden. I guess. I don't know. Safeties are going to come into play here too today.
And Chris, Cincinnati historically has always started out slow.
Yeah.
So offensively, with the start of the season, it takes them a little while to get going. So who knows? Maybe you can hang in there Sunday. What about in the field with the for Cincinnati?
The middle of the field. This is what you're asking?
Yes, the middle of the field for us.
Okay, so the question becomes: do they have the backs? Do they have the backs to handle this with us, or what are their backs looking like this season versus last season, because they lost Mixon, right?
Yep.
And so to me, they have the back that rushed for about 700 yards last season, 5 touchdowns, something like that. Last season. And why the hell is his name escaping me now? Mark, I don't know. But in any event, so
they picked up Zach Moss.
That's who it was.
They picked him up.
No, it wasn't Moss, but it was Moss, but he rushed for 700 yards.
And they got Chase Brown.
Yeah, but I'm saying Moss rushed for about 800 yards last season, like 5 touchdowns, wherever the hell he was. And so they're hoping for some of that and a little better out of him. Okay, so, but you're asking me about what happens with these backs out of the backfield pass. Look, I don't think they're really that strong in the backfield or at tight end. I think our issues at middle linebacker will get masked a little bit this week.
Okay.
It's not like you play in Miami where you're running, having deep crossers and problems like that. So we may be okay. The question becomes, what's our pass rush going to look like? That's the big thing. What's our pass rush going to be like? What's our run defense going to look like? Because once again, we still have that same issue, Mark, with our defensive front, the size, the depth and the size, physical size of these guys. Quale, Farms, and past Godchow, obviously. Godchow is going to be fine, but past him, and then you get an injury, now you're really screwed. So how are they going to hold up against the run? I think if they can hold up against the run and believe it or not, force them to be one-dimensional one way or another, that's a key. And also, again, the pass rush is important. Keon White, Dietrich Wise, these are keys to this game. What are they going to be like? Can they force them into long yardage situations? Can they get sacks? I don't know what Uche's situation is going. He's got a foot injury. He was limited in practice, so I'm not sure if he's going to play. Anthony Jennings
Cincinnati
is back,
offensive line is not that great either.
No, and historically they're not either. So I mean, you can get to Burrow. I mean, Burrow can move. I mean, he's mobile in the pocket. He's kind of that mobile quarterback that shifts. Gets him, spies himself an extra second, but he'll get out. He'll get out and run for first downs if he has to. So containing is important, not like a Lamar Jackson issue. But Anthony Jennings is now playing. With a wrist injury, he's full participation. Wise again. Zimenez, he's back to full. So I mean, these are the guys that you're gonna count on for a pass rush, because you can't leave that secondary. You can't give Burrow 2-3 seconds to throw the ball.
No, if that secondary gets exposed, Chris, you got a problem.
Yeah, big problem. So, those are going to be the keys to victory. Good pass rush, trying to get them behind the sticks some, shut down the running game, keep them one-dimensional, bracket chase. And you're right. Gonzalez is going to be a asterisk key, huge question, as to whether or not they'll have success.
We'll see how he does this week.
So that's it. So we'll see what happens. And tomorrow, tune into the Pats Nation. We're going to get a lot more detail on the on our breakdown of this game. But Pat's preview was presented by CORSO Law Group, Arizona's leading criminal and traffic law firm. CORSOLawGroup.com. Allow us to be your voice. Hey, we come back. Buckle up. I don't know. He seems happy with week 1. But I don't know. I have a feeling he's going to get irritated in the next segment. Catone's comments is next.
No one ever thinks they'll be in need of a criminal or traffic lawyer. But things happen. Whether it's a traffic ticket or more serious issue, go to CORSOLawGroup.com and talk with these expert attorneys.
Time for Catone's comments!
So this week, listen, I just have to talk about this because it's driving me out of my mind. I had issues with passwords, with banking, with signing into accounts. Listen. He said, yeah, you're already laughing. Listen. So I got a few different bank accounts, checking accounts, whatever, at this one bank. And obviously it's for a reason. You know what I mean? You got different things going into different accounts. You want to move money around. You want to do different things for certain reasons. That's my personal business. That's fine. And I should be able to do that. So I have one account. Me and my wife are on the account. We haven't utilized it in quite a while. The money is sitting. It's been about a year since it's had any activity. And we were going to transfer some into something else, another thing. And so we go to do that. We go online. We go to do it, put in our password, all this stuff, right? But I can't do it. It's frozen. I said, what? I go, but it's frozen. Okay, so we call. You're going to call corporate. Okay, we call the 1-800 number. They tell you to call. No big deal. We call. Oh, we can't do anything about that. You got to call your local branch. Oh, all right. So the next day I call the local branch. And they said name, all this stuff, password, social security, all this craziness. Okay. Yep. Oh, you got to come in person, sir. I said, what? They said, well, you got to come in person. I said, what am I going to come in person for? I said, I just told you my name. I said, you asked me 15 different things to identify myself. Then you asked me my short size. What? You asked me everything. Now I got to come in person to do this. I'm working. My wife's working. I got all these security measures these people make you do. How long's the hair under your armpit? Take out a measuring stick, measure it. They got all these security things in place. I follow it. I got to go in person. Okay, I go in person. Now I go show up in person. I got to sign this, that, and now they unfreeze the thing so I can do what I want to do with my money. It's absolutely bonkers. My head was ready to explode like a cantaloupe that's got a stick of dynamite in it. My head wanted to explode when I was done with these people. Okay? So now, the next day, I get locked out of my Instagram account. Okay, I go in, I reset the password, whatever. Okay, I got a new password now. I got hacked. That's why. So I had to reset it. Okay, I reset it. Everything's good. I put in my password. Great. All right. That afternoon, I'm on my computer. I'm going to go check. I get a message. I'm going to go into my Instagram. I try to go in. Oh, you can't get in. You're logging in from an unknown device. I've logged into my Instagram account 150 times from this laptop. Unknown device. What? So I put the password in again. Logging in from an unknown device. Change your password. What? I just changed it to get in. Now I got to change because it was hacked. Now I got to change it again. Now if I change it again, you know, when I go back to my phone, it's going to tell me it's not going to match. And now I'm going to have another problem. So I said, you know what? Forget it. I ain't logging in on my computer. I ain't doing it. Well, it must have been, Joe says Mercury's in retrograde. Well, it seemed like every account I went into this week, whether it was Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, they were all asking me to reset account information, reset password. Do you understand the number of hours I spent this week trying to get into already open established accounts? Because they want the name of your I don't know what they want to get into these accounts. I lost my mind this week. I wanted to close everything out, No more social media. No more nothing. I don't want anything to do with any of it. I just want to shut everything off. I want to go in a cave like Bedrock, like Freddie Flintstone, and sit there like Freddie Flintstone. That's what I want to do. Really, with Wilma. That's what I want to do. And Bonnie Rebel. That's how I want to live. How's that? What?
Hold on. And I swear to God, I'll show you this right now.
Bedrock.
Look what I wrote on the bottom of the screen.
What? All right, there we go.
Bedrock. I wrote that while he was talking just now. Before he even said it, I said, Mark, what do you belong to? Bedrock Bank and Trust over there?
That's where I want to go. That's what I want to do.
Sure. Right. See, the problem is you're talking to Joe's gonna go off now.
No, I'm trying to breathe. As he was going through this, I'm breathing, like going, you have no idea what I had to do before the show happened today. I was like, yeah, I just gotta meditate.
I've never seen a person get more pissed off at technology than Joe. I mean, and he works with, it's all he does is work with technology and passwords, all that crap you just mentioned.
Joe, this week was brutal, Joe. It was every account I had. I don't know what the hell was going on this week.
I feel like that's my life every single day. You just described like the morning half of my entire day, every single day.
What the hell were you trying to do with the bank? And I'm not saying personally what were you doing, but I don't understand where you belong that you got to go there for anything.
Because it said the account was frozen because it had no activity over in so many days. I don't know, Chris. What the hell do I know?
But I mean, you can't resolve that. You can't resolve that.
Well, that's what I said. They told me I had to go there in person.
What? Okay. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't make any sense at all.
No, of course not.
You know what pisses me off, and it shouldn't, but it does. Really, it does. I mean, I know it's for my own good and all, but this fraud alert, okay?
Yeah.
And it always happens. Like I live here, you know. Look, I live in Arizona, okay? So like
that happens to me when I go on vacation. Fraud alert.
Should it matter? Like I go to the same gas station, okay, all the time. You know,
yep.
All of a sudden I put in, it's always when you're in, I got to go. Like I gas, I'm allotting 2 minutes for this. So, boom. And decline. Please see cashier. I'm like, okay. Now, normally if this happens, if something gets declined and it like fraud alert, I'm happy. Say, well, now I don't have to spend any money. I don't have to buy this stupid thing, whatever I don't really need to begin with anyway. Right. So, but in this situation, I need gas, right? So I go in and I'm like, yeah. Before I go in, I get the email now, okay, that says, "Do you trust?" The fraud email. Either hit yes or hit no. Okay, if you're the one doing this, I'm like, I live here. Of course, I'm the one doing this. I've done this every damn week for the last forever. And now all of a sudden it's some sort of fraud
at the same gas station,
the
right?
same joint, the same place.
Right.
It's not like I'm in Canada. I mean, I'm over here, right? And so now here we go. I hit yes, but now I'm confused. I get real confused because I don't trust any of these gas station people. I think everybody's trying to rip me off. So I don't know if that means it's going to charge me something. If I got to redo it, like in other words,
yeah.
What does that mean now? Do it again? I mean, go in and cancel whatever you were trying to. So I go in and I talk to you. Ever go into one of these places, Circle K or whatever you people have there? We go in there. See who's, the music. I'm listening. I walk in there. It sounds like a nightclub. I mean, I'm not kidding you. I almost took the phone and recorded this because of I'm like, what the hell is happening here? And the music's so loud. The guy's like, how can I help you? He's screaming at me. Well, you could turn the music down for a second. It's 2 PM. Like, what do we, And now I'm asking this clown, so is my card going to be charged? Can I use it?
You don't know what day it is.
Nah, you're good, man. You're all good.
He doesn't know.
You're all good. All this because of the stupid credit card fraud alert, So I'm with you. Look,
Joe, I know Joe's with me.
Oh man, I'm with you 100%. I can't figure it. I've tried to figure out different ways of why everything does something, and I've gotten to a certain point where I'm like, I understand a lot of different variables, but there's way too many variables to troubleshoot for this technology when it's like you already know. That's the worst part is all these devices already know what I'm doing, what I'm gonna do for the next 24 hours. It's like, why are you asking me who I am at this point?
No, it's true. It's true.
Listen, why do you bother? This is why I don't do anything with Instagram. I'm like Belichick. Oh, he's on Instagram now.
Instaface. He's on. No, he said he's on Instaface.
He's on that now.
He said I'm on Instaface.
Bill Belichick is now doing more stuff than I do.
That's sad. Let me tell you something. That's sad. That's when you know you're a dinosaur. You're T-Rex. When he's doing more than you, you have a problem, Chris.
Yes, this is why, Mox. See all this crap? I got to get on my Instagram. What do you need to get on there for? What do you need to be on Instagram for? I just want to know. What are you looking at that you like?
Listen, that's how I get information because they're all on. All these guys, these sportscasters, Greg Bedard, they're all on.
I mean, I get all this information. I don't.
Yeah, you get it from. You're on a rotary. Listen, you're on a rotary phone. They don't even know what these poor kids. These kids don't even know what rotary phones are. With the spinning dial, that's what Chris is on. He's trying to dial numbers.
Then when you would screw up, you had to start all over again.
You had to start all over. Yeah.
And for the folks at home, just so you know, this is the reason why our Instagram, CORSO CATONE's Instagram, is a stale.
Doesn't work.
Don't even bother
to this episode.
Listen, you know how Joe, how much he yells at us. He yells at us so much about doing this crap, tweeting and all this other stuff.
Listen, when we went to Brady's,
what do you call it? Tweeting, Xing, Xing.
We went to Brady's retirement ceremony. We're doing stuff, we're videoing stuff, and Joe says, "Put it up on Instagram and Twitter." I told him. He looked at me. He said, "What?" I said, "Put it up on Instagram." He said, "Yeah, okay." The phone went in his pocket.
I don't do it any of it. I seem to be in the know. About things.
Okay. Yep.
Isn't that the producer's job to tell us what's happening?
It is the producer's job. You're right,
Joe.
Right? It is. But the producers tell the director, tell them what to do.
Tell them what to do.
Yeah.
So, no, I don't do anything. Mark, listen, do yourself a favor, will you please? What was my advice to you every single time you talk about stuff like this? What do I tell you?
But I didn't leave the house. I was home trying to do it.
We're going to have to retract it. What you were going to say, Chris, just retract it to now just stay in bed all day.
just
don't even leave the bed.
You at least got to try to be like Belichick and get on Insta. He called it Instaface. It's Instagram.
I won't do it.
What?
Won't do it. Not going to do it. Sorry.
All right.
Not going to do it. Mark, you're right about all of it. I hate the whole world with all this stuff. So good job. Catone's comment.
Wilma, Betty. That's where we belong.
Yeah. Yabba dabba doo. Catone's comments was presented by the Pats Nation Sundays, 8 to 9 a.m. Eastern. It'll be the pregame show tomorrow for the Cincinnati Bengals game. So make sure you tune in to that and let us know everything in Heated Hotline. But hey, when we come back, going to talk baseball, Yankees, Red Sox, no flipping.
Sundays are for football. And here in New England, that means it's the Pats Nation with CORSO and Catone.
You have the worst wide receiver room in the National Football League.
This is why the Patriots need us in the draft room. Let's see what the Pats Nation thinks about that, Mark.
Starting June 30th, Sundays, 8 to 9 a.m. on 790 The Score.
Back in with more CORSO and Catone, the real deal, New England feel. All right, let's talk baseball. Yankees versus Red Sox. Okay, Mark, let's start with the New York Yankees. Let's talk a little bit about them, where they are right now. And hey, listen, we're getting down to it. I mean, we are getting down to it. Right now they're 80 and 60. They were as of Thursday, and sitting there. Well,
they're a half a game out of first right now.
Yeah, I mean, so they keep battling with Baltimore and Cleveland to see who's going to get that number one spot in the AL, but
your buddy blew another save, by the way, Holmes.
Yeah, I knew you were going to talk about that.
Well, I don't even know if it was a save opportunity. It might have been a tie game, but he gave up the home run again, Chris. You know?
If they don't win, okay. If they lose, what do they have to do? What do we have to do to get Boone and Cashman fired? Like what?
Well, I'm
where
going
does
to tell you
this
what's
have
going to
go?
happen, Chris. You're going to end up with a 3 seed. If you end up with a 3 seed in the playoffs, okay? If you say those 2 teams beat you out, I'll tell you right now. If those 3 teams beat you out, okay, and you end up in the
So it's Baltimore, Cleveland, and New York, is what you're saying?
yeah, if you end up in the 3 slot, guess who you play?
Yeah, but how do they do it now? Because they would be a wild card team at that point.
They would be a wild card team, and they probably would have to play. Well, no, because of their record, they would probably play. They wouldn't play Houston. I don't think they would probably. Well, yeah, they would because they might end up having to play Houston in their wild card round, Chris.
How does this? Okay, to explain
Because
this,
if
explain to the people
Cleveland,
how the whole format is.
because I'm going to tell you why, Chris. Because I think Houston will be the 3rd division winner. No, they won't get them. They'll play the 2nd wild card team. The team with the worst record of the wild cards would play Houston. So you might.
So what? The first 2 teams don't play in the wild card, right?
No,
how they
I don't
do it?
believe so. I think
And
that's
then
how
they
they
end
do
up
it.
with
Yeah.
4 for the ALDS and then the ALCS.
But anyways, Chris, listen. That
So
could
Cleveland
get
gets the
him
bye,
fired.
Baltimore gets the
Listen,
bye,
that
then
could
you got
get
New
him.
York.
That could get him
Oh,
fired,
Houston, New York, yeah.
Chris. That could get him them fired if they
They
lose
play
in the opening
Minnesota
round.
under this format. is how it
Okay,
works.
if they play Minnesota,
Hmm.
I'm hoping you can beat them. If Minnesota beats you, you're out. You
over.
got to get rid of Cashman and Boone if you lose. They got to. What are they going to do?
That took us way too long to figure that out.
Well, because everything is analytics and
Still
this and
trying
that. I'm talking to T-Rex over here. You think you can figure this out?
I'm still trying to catch up.
You're asking me. I can't even get into a bank account. They logged me out, shut me out. Well, you're asking me to figure this out.
Right. So, okay.
Do you carry the one? Do you carry the one, or is there a square root in there involved?
Yeah, because it would end up. It would. I have
Joe.
to solve this. It would end up being
Joe,
Houston,
he
New York,
failed.
Minnesota,
He
Kansas City.
stole
Listen,
he stole the math test when he was in high school. He used to steal the exams. For Christ's sake.
listen, I am like bedrock. I can't math. Nah, I can't do any of that.
There's
Okay, so
nothing
that
said.
gets them fired. So they lose the first round of the playoffs. They're fired for sure. Now, what happens if they end up in the ALD? If they're a wild card team and
Chris,
they
listen,
end in
I
ALDS,
think they have to go to the World Series. The only chance I think Boone and Cashman have of coming back is if you go to the World Series. Even if you lose it, you got to get there. If they don't make it to the World Series, Chris, I honestly don't see how Steinbrenner, the son, can keep these 2 guys again, Chris, because it's the same result again. You didn't get any further. You at least got to show a little progress and make it to the championship round. If you get beaten in the World Series by somebody from the National League, okay, fine. You got there, though. But if you get beat again in the American League round, somewhere in the American League, I don't care what round it's in. I don't even care if it's ALCS. How do you keep those 2 guys?
Mark, I mean, as of Thursday, they were 4-6 in their last 10.
Yeah, I know.
Now Baltimore, Cleveland, 5-5 each. I mean, nobody's taking it away. But
I understand that, Chris. But there's still it's bad. You're going into the playoffs not on a hot streak. You're stumbling into the playoffs.
You got 22 games left. Well, about 20.
Yeah,
21 games. They got 80. What do you think they end with? How many wins?
How many games they got left?
Well, as of Thursday, it was 22.
22.
And they were 80 wins.
I'll say they end up with 94 wins. And that doesn't get it
because they got a 571 win percentage. So
yeah. And I don't think that gets it done. I think Baltimore ends up with 95, I say 96. I say Baltimore beats you up by a game or 2. You finish in second place is my prediction.
They don't have the bullpen, Mark. They don't have the
bullpen, Chris. That's what I'm saying. They don't have the bullpen.
They don't have it to do this. And on the other side, okay, talking about the Red Sox now.
Red Sox, Chris,
they're fading now.
5.5 games out of the wild card. However, the problem with them, Chris, now is you're not just chasing Kansas City and Minnesota.
No, it's Seattle and Detroit.
Detroit is 5.5 games out of the wild card. Seattle's 5.5 games out of the wild card, and Tampa Bay is 6. So you're battling. Not only are you trying to catch Kansas City and Minnesota, now you're battling 3 other teams to get into the wild card round too. So they're out, Chris. They're never going to make it. They're finished.
No.
Unless
No,
they go on a ridiculous hot streak.
If they
out.
hit their average, okay, if they hit their average, then they'll win 10 more games.
Listen, they're a 500 baseball team.
If they hit their average.
What did you and I, despite how they played all year, they were up, they were down, they were 10 games over 500, they were down. At the end of the day, they're a 500 team.
And that's what we said from the
and what did we say?
500 team.
We say they'll be a 500 team, maybe a couple of games above 500 was our prediction. So we
listen, for as
not
much
going to be right.
For as much props as I've given Cora,
yeah,
I got to knock him on a couple of things lately.
Yeah,
look,
go ahead.
Yeah, you got a guy, okay, Griswold throwing a perfect game now, albeit through 4 innings. Okay, so it's not like he was throwing it through 8, but through 4 innings he had a perfect game. He only threw 52 pitches. Okay, you pull him for Rich Hill. Okay.
Hey, Chris, what was the point of pulling that guy? What was the reason he gave?
Got to go lefty for you have to play the
so
lefty
he's playing
game.
So he's playing the analytic game again.
Yeah, he said that this was pre-decided, that this was what we do. This is the analytics. We're going to pull this guy at 52 pitches, and we're going to put in Rich Hill, who sucks. Okay, and you lose 4-1. Explain that to people, because I mean that's not
Chris,
baseball.
But it's not baseball. But that's his managing style, Chris, and he's gotten away with it because he has been relatively successful using that style and that strategy.
Yeah, but you need wins now. You need as many wins as you could possibly get. You got a bullpen that's dragging. I mean, you got a guy that throws 50 pitches and run him.
And I'm going to tell you something, Chris. The Mets beat up on their bullpen.
Oh
in that series against the Mets just beat up on the bullpen. The Mets swept them, but they beat up on that bullpen. And you know what I don't understand, Chris? You still got that kid in left field. He made another little league error out there. You got nobody else to put out in left field but that
O'Neal?
kid. No. Rising.
No.
Rising. Snyder. Why is he still out there? You got nobody else. Okay, I granted he's hitting above his weight. He's not that good, but he's having a decent year.
Yeah.
But you got nobody else to put out there. He's a defensive liability. How can you still have that kid out there? I don't understand it. And
why is this defense historically so bad? Why is that never?
You know what I don't understand, Chris? So the center fielder makes an error the other night too. Here's what I don't understand: your shortstop is your best defensive outfielder. He should be playing center field, and he'll be a Gold Glove center fielder. When Chaim Bloom was here, all you did every draft was draft middle infielders. Every single draft, you take 4 or 5 middle infielders. You mean to tell me you don't got one guy in the minor leagues that can play shortstop? After all those draft picks that Chaim Bloom took on middle infielders, now one of those guys can play shortstop at the major league level. So you can put the shortstop back in center field where he belongs. It's amazing to me. That's absolutely amazing to me. And I know they got Trevor Story. Supposedly he'll be the shortstop when he's healthy. He hasn't been healthy since you picked him up since you signed him.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can't make sense of it. I don't know how the hell.
But I think the Red Sox are finished, Chris. I mean,
they're finished, but they could have done more. Like there could have been, like you say, these are the buttons that could have been pushed. To keep this team 5 more wins at this point.
The trade deadline.
I mean, they very easily could have had 5 more wins at this point, no?
Yeah, Chris, at the trade deadline, you traded for a bunch of what? Nothing serious. What do you trade for? 4? I call them 4A players, right? That's what I call them, not AAA, 4A players. You traded for 4A players. Boy, who did you trade for? Okay, I guess Paxton from the Dodgers could have turned out to be something, but he's got an injury history, and lo and behold, he gets injured. But the other guys they picked up, Chris, were 4A players. You didn't bring in any studs to say, oh, we're going to really make a push.
So we're back to the bottom line is we're back to reality. Back to reality with the Red Sox, and I think the fate of the Yankees is sitting where Mark said. So we'll see what happens, but Corso and Catone was presented by the Pats Nation, Sundays, 8 a.m. Eastern. Make sure you're tuning in because that will be the Patriots pregame show, the first one, the only one you should be watching. And make sure you get on, watch it, listen to all our shows, and subscribe, and come back next week. Noon Eastern. We're going to recap that Bengals game. Catone's comments, anything you bring to the table, we will be ready. We are Corso and Catone, the real deal New England feel. See you next Saturday.
Now find Corso Catone on AM 790, The Score, iHeartRadio, iTunes, wherever you podcast. Or subscribe to the YouTube channel and catch the chaos every Saturday at noon.